sun may have set over our city this evening, but as Eugene Debs once said, I can see the dawn of a better day for humanity. For as long as we can remember, the working people of New York have been told by the wealthy and the well-connected that power does not belong in their hands. Fingers bruised from lifting boxes on the warehouse floor, palms calloused from delivery bike handlebars, knuckles scarred with kitchen burns. These are not hands that have been allowed to hold power. And yet, over the last 12 months, you have dared to reach for something greater. Tonight, against all odds, we have grasped it. The future is in our hands. My friends, we have toppled a political dynasty.
Happy days are here again, the skies above are clear again. Let us sing a song of cheer again. Happy days are here again. All together shout it now. There's no one who can doubt it now. So let's tell the world all about it now. Happy days are here again. Your cares and troubles are gone. There'll be no more from now on.
Our cares and troubles are gone.
If it was only that simple.
All right, yes. That was Mayor-elect Zoran Mamdani.
Yeah, get the name right now.
Yes. Well, you know, if it was Mondami, it would be Italian. So it's Mamdani.
Right.
If it was Mondami, it would be Italian.
Well,
right?
It goes to show that there is connections to all different languages out there.
Yeah, you're right. And that was Eugene Debs that he referred to in the very beginning, which got me to watch the rest of the speech. But then again, you know, Reagan in 1980 actually quoted Thomas Paine.
That's right.
That was the last we heard of anything about Paine for the next 8 years of Reagan's administration. We'll see what's going to happen here. We have Dr. Richard Wolff that is joining us. I'm Randy Critical. This is Live on the Fly on WBAI. Free speech radio, listener supported. Are you listening, folks? Listener supported. If you don't think that we are in the crosshairs, well, think again. And Richard Wolff will be talking about that, Dr. Wolff. He says I can call him Dick, so I can call him Dick now. All right, so we're going to get right into this. We have a big show today. A rock star is going to show up and be part of the second half. In the meantime, Dr. Wolff, as you know, is a world-renowned economist. He's also a philosopher. I think he's a psychologist as well. He speaks 3 languages fluently, all right? So Democracy at Work is the website. Understanding Capitalism, you must get that book, okay? It's a must. One of many books that he's written and published. And he's a host right here every Thursday night at 7 p.m. Economic Update. So here's Joe Glazer and a little Eugene Debs music, and we'll be right back with the esteemed Dr. Richard Wolff.
Come with me to Indiana, back to 1855, to the little town of Terre Haute, where railroading once thrived. There Eugene Victor Debs was born, and before that boy could stand, he told the world in his mom, Pa, I'm gonna be a railroad man. He went to work in the railroad yards at 14 years of age. His pay was 50 cents a day, that was the going wage. When he became a fireman, he learned to shovel coal. He loved to hear the whistle blow and the mighty drivers roll.
All right, Joe Glazer. Maybe at the end of the show we'll play the entire tune. Randy Critical live on the fly on WBAI here with Reggie Johnson and Sophia at my feet. We are now joined with the ubiquitous and indefatigable and often copied Richard Wolff. You know, Dr. Wolff, I was doing research on you this week, as I always do, and I ran across about 4 or 5 videos that wasn't you.
That's right. It is a, what shall I say? It's a hurdle of doing work that involves video these days. I'm learning about it myself over the last 6 months, if not a little bit longer. People like you around the world that are looking for the materials that we put out at Democracy at Work write to us incredulously saying, how could you say, and then they quote something I never said. So at first I wrote back and I said, I never said that. And then they wrote me back and they said, here's a clip. And there is my face, my mouth, my head saying these words which I do not agree with and which I in fact never said. And then we did some research and we discovered that, you know, the way every technology produces good and bad together, like most things in life do, well, the great AI, the great breakthroughs in technology are allowing people to do the following. I'm going to give you an example from the one that you called me about, Randy, but that others have too. They take, because they can do this, they take the upper half of my face. So what you see is a head, the upper half of which is in fact me. So if you're used to seeing me or hearing me, you say, oh, there he is. You recognize me the way you would recognize anybody. But I can see, even if you can't at first, that the lower half of my face is not me. They have substituted somebody else's face, you know, with a skin color more or less like mine, and they use my voice, and they have the lips synced to what is coming out of them, you know, so it looks like me. My upper half head, the lower half, which is really just, you know, the jaw and your mouth, and out come whatever they've programmed in. The AI can take my words in one sentence and rearrange them into another sentence.
They can also They can also just take a sample of it and then use it,
yes,
right?
Take a sample. I'm no expert on the technology, to say the least.
Reggie is.
And then I discovered, through beginning to talk to other people, Jeffrey Sachs, whom you probably know, an important commentator on current events, who's also a professor of international affairs at Columbia University here in New York. His people are telling me they have the same problem all over the world.
Mersheimer, too.
Yep, John Mearsheimer, too. And I'm getting him now. A friend recently from Germany sent me a folder with, get this, 18 videos in which there's my face, there's my head, there's my mouth, and out of it comes really good quality German.
Wow.
And I saw another one where the same thing is done in Spanish. I don't speak Spanish. I couldn't possibly have done any of that. I do speak German because my mother was born in Germany, and I grew up speaking German. But other than that, this is not me. I didn't make any of these things.
What do you think the motivation is here? I mean, maybe are these fans of yours?
Some of them are. So, look, some people have advised me just to look the other way and pretend I never noticed, which I don't want to do.
Right.
And the reason they give is they say, look, a lot of these people like what you do, came across it, and are now finding an enjoyable way of sort of spreading the word. And you shouldn't, don't worry about it. They may not do as good a job on the video. Some of the videos, I must tell you, are made crudely.
Right.
So that, for example, the moving lips are not consistent.
Right. It looks
with
like
what
a
you're
spaghetti
hearing.
western, right? One of those
Yeah,
ones.
remember that? The old, that's right.
Right.
Before they
Samson.
got that.
Samson and Hercules.
Some of them are
films.
like that. But
Yeah.
I'm told that the major motivation is money. What they
Really?
do is they present the people who make this, they present themselves in whatever audience they're reaching as me. And they urge people to buy a subscription or to sign up to get more of these videos. So they don't have to pay me, not a nickel. They don't have to pay for anything about making the video. They just pay whatever it costs them to scramble the words and the images, and out it goes. So it costs them relatively little, and it's a fundraiser.
But they can make up their own words. I think with the sampled voice, they can make up their own words as long as they can, like, type it in, and then the voice, the sample of Richard Wolff, is used to speak. The cadence, I can tell because the cadence is not yours, all right? There's particular ways that you speak, and it's almost like in a monotone Richard Wolff.
For most people, I am told, don't pay that close attention. You're right. Once I'm suspicious, I can see pretty quickly whether it is or it isn't.
Yeah.
But I have to look especially hard, even at people like Jeffrey Sachs. I had to look closely, and then I realized they had done it to him too.
There's a lot of them. I'm serious. They're going around a lot. They pop up all the time. If I'm watching a video of you, and it's you from Democracy at Work, there'll be another video below it with Richard Wolff, and it's not from Democracy at Work. It's not from your website. And it's under the algorithm, I'm looking at something and it pops up with the same name, but it's not you. And what's the? Is there an ominous side to this that you are being misquoted?
Sure.
Can somebody use this against you?
Yeah, of course. I mean, like everything, it cuts both ways. It used to be that if you wanted to silence somebody in this country, somebody who said something radical about, I don't know, race relations or sex or something else, you'd haul them up in front of a court and you'd say, we have on record that you said so-and-so. And let's suppose you say, no, I didn't, I deny it. Then they would play a clip, a video or a film clip of you saying the thing that you're accused of. And a jury would then likely look at it and say, well, the guy's guilty because here is proof. Well, now it's going to be possible for any, lawyer to stand up and say, no, fake video,
Right.
And it's going to be so well known, this whole fake video business, that no one will be able to rely on a clip of anything. Look, I wonder the next time you see a clip of some politician you're interested in, Mr. Trump or Mr. Newsom in California or Kamala Harris or whoever it might be, you're going to see a clip and you may be very happy that the person is saying it or very angry that the person is saying it, but you're not going to have a new problem. There's no guarantee whatsoever that the politician who got you angry actually said that, as opposed to a fake video of having him say that. And the same is true if you're happy about what that politician said and you go around saying, I'm voting for John or Mary because of this thing they said, only to have someone point out to you, that's a fake video that was made by that politician's enemies. Right. And on and on and on.
You have to go out and defend yourself. You have to actually go out and defend yourself if somebody quotes you, and then you're going out to defend yourself. And I don't know at what point it reaches a boiling over a point where you just kind of wig out about it and go nuts. I don't know. You know what I mean?
Well, I've already seen in one case. In an academic setting, a student who accused a teacher of inappropriate sexual pressure on her, and she had some sort of video or audio, I don't know which it was, but the defense of the person charged was exactly that this was fake. I never did that. I never said that. I never made those movements. Nothing. That's done by a fake video. And no one in the room, because this is not a court of law, not that they could do any better, but in this room, in an academic setting, nobody knew what to do.
Wow. We're going to move on here. And this is similar in some fashion. Eugene Debs was mentioned by the mayor-elect the other day, Donnie. And Eugene Debs in 1918, as you know, made the speech in Canton, Ohio, which he wasn't planning to do. And you know why he made that anti-war speech? He had been very careful not to say anything, but there were articles around the country misquoting him, saying that Eugene Debs says he supports the war. He supports sending troops to Europe, supports the draft and all of that, which he didn't. So he finally, he reached a boiling point. He went and visited kids that were draftees or draft resistors and somewhere, I think maybe Cincinnati or Cleveland, and was so furious at the conditions that they were under that next day he went to Canton and delivered this speech, and it was not recorded. It was written down by FBI agents or Department of Justice agents before the FBI Bureau of Investigation, and the next thing you know, he gets a 20-year prison sentence or maybe a 10-year prison sentence just because of that. So people putting fake words in your mouth, as they did with him, pushed him to the point where he had to defend himself publicly. So I don't know if that was a conspiracy to get him out there and put him away and destroy the Socialist Party at that time in the IWW. He wasn't with the IWW, but Debs.
Yeah.
Do we have a new Debs? Do we have a new Debs, or is this Debs light?
I think the answer is that we are going to find out. Once the euphoria passes and Mr. Mamdani, settles down on the 1st of January and goes to work on the job he was elected to do, he is going to face extraordinary hostility, extraordinary pressures, extraordinary efforts to undo his popularity, to undo the extraordinary victory that he has achieved. He's going to be working in an economy that is going into recession as we speak. That would be a problem for any mayor. He's going to have that one on top of all the special ones coming at him because of who he is as a Muslim, because of who he is, as a socialist. So he is going to be tested in a way that few people have been, few American politicians, a little bit like Eugene Victor Debs, and we're going to see. And the question, there's no point in speculating on it. I don't know him personally, and even if I did, I wouldn't dare speculate on what he will end up doing, given all the pressures on him. It's going to be quite a ride we're all going to have watching all of this unfold. Look, the hysteria alone, Randy, it blew me away. Newspapers here in New York, columnists saying how frightened they are that he won, because now we'll all live, and then you get this hysteria in a regimented society where we have no freedom. What?
Yeah.
What are you talking about? I mean, what you're seeing here is an unfolding of 75 years of Cold War propaganda, which these people took seriously. Let me correct it with a simple history. If you look it up, you will discover that there are between 75 and 100 cities in the United States in its history who elected and were run by socialist mayors. This is not a new phenomena. This is not some earth-shaking, upsetting. Stop. That's just ignorance. I lived for many years in Connecticut, in the city of New Haven. Very nearby, 20 minutes by car, is another city, one of the three big cities of Connecticut, by the name of Bridgeport. Bridgeport had a socialist mayor for years. It's a perfectly normal, typical American city. It didn't suffer anything from that socialist mayor. He did a number of very good things. I'm sure he did a number of mistakes that he regrets, like most mayors. But the notion that electing a socialist is some absolutely unparalleled event, that's just screaming ignorance. And as if that weren't enough, I could take you on a tour of Europe today, and I would only go to those countries that American tourists love. I would go to France and Italy and Germany and Britain, and I would take you around to all of the cities that either have had a socialist mayor or have one now. These are cities you went to because you loved visiting. You liked being a tourist there. They had wonderful streets and restaurants. And you know why? Because they have a socialist mayor, and you didn't worry 1 minute about it. Partly because you were ignorant of it. I used to tell friends of mine who came back from Paris and marveled, as one should, at the subway system there. If you've never been in a Paris subway,
I have, yes, it's beautiful.
It'll give you an idea of what a subway can look like that is very different and way better than the subway system that we have here in New York.
Yeah.
It's a beautifully well-kept, decorated, clean, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Okay.
Before you go any further with that, I was in Moscow 2 years ago for about 12 days, and I took the subways all the time. Each subway station looked like the Taj Mahal, or at least looked like what you see at Grand Central. I just want you to know that.
Many of the French stations are like that too.
Right.
They're made to be beautiful public spaces that you enjoy.
Yes.
You know, being in a beautiful square somewhere in your town.
Yes.
Anyway, the joke ends this way. Did you enjoy the subway? Oh, yes, the subways were my friends. These were Americans who'd never seen that kind of a subway before.
Right.
And I said, were you aware of the union of the people who run the subway? You know, the guy or the man or the woman, there are many women who drive the subway cars and who maintain them. And are you aware of what the union is? No. This is the name of the union. I give them the name of the union. I said it's very famous in France because this union is very closely allied with the French Communist Party.
Oh. Wow.
You were in, and then I look at them, and then with a twinkle in my eye, you were on a communist subway.
Well, I guess
And you know, most of them laugh because they realize the foolishness of all of this, as if there's something. And then you realize, of course, in America, for 70 years after the mid-40s, Americans were taught in school, on the radio and television, by their political leaders, by their corporate employers, that communism and socialism and Marxism are these evil, terrible things, you know, like you learned as a child, live in hell and are representatives of the devil, have horns, tails, and all the rest of it.
Right.
But you realize, you know, we make fun of it, but for a lot of people, there was nothing else. And those ideas settled deep into their brain. And so they woke last Wednesday morning of this week, reading the headline, "We have a socialist mayor," and they freaked out.
Yeah.
And the number of them in really high places in our culture tells you something about our country that I wish I hadn't learned.
You know, me too. It was amazing. I mean, you got this guy Mark Levin. No one should watch him. It was Mark Levine. Brainless blackguards like Mark Levin. I don't know why he gets a platform, but he does, saying some of the nastiest stuff. And you got Trump, of course, calling him a communist, as if he's ever read Das Kapital or anything by Lenin or anything by Marx.
If I could interrupt, Randy, there was something very interesting about Trump's attack on Mamdani. The last time I saw it, he's there railing, saying that he may not let Mamdani take the position, even if he wins the election, which, by the way, is a wonderful comment on your commitment to democracy. But put it aside. He says, this socialist, then he corrected himself. Donald Trump, who rarely does this, corrected himself, said, he's not a socialist. Then he waited, nice pregnant pause, and summoning all of the intensity he can muster, he's a communist.
Yeah. Do you think he knows what that word means?
No, but here's why it's important. He knows that calling Mamdani a socialist, which he's been doing for months, doesn't work.
Right.
It hasn't turned anybody off. It's a dead letter. It doesn't have the squash effect that is intended and that it used to have. He's got to come up with something stronger. He realizes it himself. Calling Mamdani a socialist makes him more attractive to young people than he would be without the letter. And he has to come up with something else. And because he's not all that well educated about these things, he comes up with communist.
Yeah.
The best he can do in that moment when he realizes that he's doing Mamdani a favor calling him a socialist. There's a poll out, by the way, I don't know if you saw it, earlier this week, a poll of college students in the United States taken over the last 2 or 3 weeks. And the poll results, pretty widely reported, 67%, that's 2/3, of college students asked answered that they were either favorable toward or neutral toward socialism. The same students on the same questionnaire were asked, how do you feel about capitalism? 40% said they were favorable or neutral to capitalism. In other words, that contest is over. The young people coming out of college in this country find socialism significantly less worthy of their opposition and significantly more worthy of their interest and support. That's an incredible change in the makeup of our young people in or out of college compared to what it was over the last 70 years.
All right. Going back to the 30s and 20s, it wasn't such an evil word to be called a communist back then. It wasn't until, right? Am I correct?
That's all after World War II.
Right. And so Trump has gone full Roy Cohn here, full J. Edgar Hoover, and using the C word, and describing the mayor-elect.
I wish I had had a camera at the time. I was too young. But I have seen the photos of the posters that were hung over the counter in American post offices all across the country. There was a very famous poster hung there during the 1940s. And the poster depicted your typical Uncle Sam in the top hat with the red and white stripes and all of that, arm in arm with a character identified in big print as Uncle Joe.
No kidding.
That was Joseph Stalin.
That's right.
Right.
That's right.
And Uncle Sam and Uncle Joe were arm in arm. And I explained to the audience because the United States and the Soviet Union were allies in World War II, focusing on their common enemy, the Germans and the Japanese and the Italians. And the reality of it, I'm talking to an audience of Americans, bright young people, who have no idea of that part of their history. It's been cleansed out of whatever American history course they were taught, either in elementary school or high school or college. Here they are.
Yeah, there were. Yeah, there were pros.
Adults
I'm sorry.
having me explain to them really late in
Wow.
their lives the history out of which they come.
There were a lot of pictures at the same time in the 40s that favored the Soviet Union, made in Hollywood. They were like pro-Soviet Union, or at least not negative Soviet Union, films that came out because they were supporting the war effort. They were our allies. If you look back, I saw one recently, and they were not hard on Stalin at that point in time. Right. So you got that. Now, so you got Trump and you got all of these knucklehead reactionaries, red baiting and all of that. But we're not getting much support from the mainstream Democratic Party, and from Hakeem Jeffries, Chuck Schumer, Gregory Meeks. They said, well, this is a novelty. It's an anomaly. It's going to go away. I don't think that they're seeing the writing on the wall. Are they just trying to protect the interests of the people that finance them?
Both. They're doing exactly both. They don't want to see it, so they don't see it. It's good for them and their donors that they pretend that it's not there, or that it's small, or that it's a passing fad. Let's do a little history, and it'll blow all them away. We have no politician for 70 years in America after the mid-40s who dares accept the label socialism. Every politician tells every other politician, if you don't get rid of that label, you're committing political suicide, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Then we get to 2016, actually 2015, and Bernie Sanders breaks the taboo. Look, all taboos are eventually broken. Everybody should have understood that one would be too. We might not know exactly when, but it will be broken. Every thou shalt not is followed by somebody who did it anyway. So Bernie gets up and says, I'm going to run as a socialist. I'm not going to reject the label. If you apply it to me, it fits. I'm a socialist. And all the pundits of the sort you just referred to, I remember them. They said, you'd be lucky to get 1% of the vote. It won't make any difference. You're wasting everybody's time. You shouldn't be paid any attention to. And then he got millions of people who voted for him, proving that they were wrong. A few years later, Alexandra Ocasio-Cortez and the four of them, mostly young women, showed that socialists, which many of them were, could win elections in the American Congress, which had been thought impossible, that it won't repeat what Bernie Sanders was a special, the attractive elderly gentleman from Vermont, and nobody would vote for any young person who, there we are, proven wrong. And now we have the third milestone. And it's a milestone in the return of socialism to the American political conversation. The way you rightly say, Randy, it used to be before World War II. We're just coming back to the way things were. And the way it happened is a third person, more unlikely to win than the other two. Bernie is, after all, an elderly white gentleman from Vermont. And the group of four that came with Alexandra Ocasio-Cortez were young women, and you could try to explain away their victories by saying they were young, or they were women, or they were good looking, or whatever kind of thing silly people say. But now we got someone who isn't an old man, who isn't a white person, and who isn't a young woman. He's yet something really different for American political life, a practicing Muslim who identifies as a socialist.
Right.
All right, this, and that he wins, and I want to underscore, he got over 50% of the vote, which means that Zoran Mamdani got more votes than all of the other candidates, 4 or 5 of them, that ran against him. He got more votes than they all did, including Cuomo and the others.
Right.
So this is a, if ever you wanted evidence that something is going on in the country that would include Bernie on the one hand, Ocasio-Cortez, and now Mamdani, you've got it here. So you're going to have to really stretch it or really rely on historical ignorance to make the case that this isn't the historical shift which it now clearly is.
Definitely is. Now, that's how I was just going to bring up the point. I'm going to go to Italy. Is this a Garibaldi moment or a Spartacus moment? You know, Garibaldi took 1,000 men and they liberated Sicily and Naples and overthrew La Bamba, King Francis, and united Italy with 1,000 men and with bad rifles and muskets. And then Spartacus had a good run for. I mean, he actually got the job done. He got Spartacus lasted about 3 or 4 months or whatever, and then Marcus Crassus wiped him out and crucified them all. What moment where are we now, do you think? Are they going to do everything they can to suppress this movement?
Yes. My expectation is that they will. Or to say the same thing in a more accurate way, they're going to attack Mr. Mamdani and the Democratic Socialists of America and socialism in general to whatever extent they have time, energy, and money left over with dealing with the much larger problem they have. The people running this country, and this would be true if they were Democrats, every bit as much as it's true now that we have Republicans in charge. They are presiding over a declining empire.
Yeah.
It was started before they got into office. It will be continuing long after they've left office. They are just a moment in that process, which shows up in 100 problems they have that they didn't used to have and that they have to come up with solutions for. Second point, related to the first, we're facing a recession. The employment situation in this country is not good. The inflation, currently running, officially at 3 to 4%, is therefore not under control and comes after several years of inflation, some much higher than 3 or 4%, that have really eroded purchasing power. There's a reason why the number one issue Mr. Mamdani repeated forever was the issue of rent. People can't afford to pay for decent housing. Or to put the same thing another way, so little money is left after paying for their apartment that they have to scrimp on health care, school expenses, and so on. And they're angry about it, and they feel betrayed about it, and those are the problems Mr. Trump better deal with, because if he doesn't, the people who voted him in are going to vote him out.
Right.
Because remember, he promised he could fix it. I'll take care of the war in Ukraine.
Right.
If
In
you
just
take me
one
a
day, he's going to
phone
make a
call.
phone call and have it done.
Take me a phone call. I'll get it done in a week.
Well, it's not
Here we
just Trump. It's not
Here
just the
we are,
Republic.
10 months,
Yes.
10 months after he's elected, and the war in Ukraine goes right on, except the Russians are in better position than they were when he became the president. The
Right.
horrors in Gaza continue. And what do we get? The president who ran against endless wars is making war noises in Iran, war noises against
Venezuela.
Mexico, war noises now against Venezuela. The other day, he
Nigeria.
threw in Nigeria. For good I mean, what in the world are you watching here? These
don't know.
issues. These are the issues that got him in. And if he's not very careful, these are the issues going to throw him out. And therefore, he may not be able to mobilize the sentiment or the unanimity or even the MAGA world behind a purge of socialists wherever he can imagine he finds them. So, yeah, he'll want to. Yeah, he'll try to, but he may not have much moxie left to do much of it.
You know, Dr. Wolff, it's not just him. It's the Democrats have been complicit in all of this. I mean, just take an example. Gregory Meeks, who's up in Harlem, and over here in Bedford-Stuy is Hakeem Jeffries. Both of them ardent supporters of all of these wars, and they're poor districts, especially where Hakeem Jeffries resides and represents. It's not making the city great again. It's making Zelensky great again. He's voted for and pushed. He's been a very vocal advocate of this proxy war in Ukraine at the expense of whatever that district that he represents needs.
Yeah, no, I could not agree more. The example I would bring to your attention, if you hadn't seen it, was on Wednesday of this week, so a couple days ago. Kamala Harris, the presidential candidate last November of the Democratic Party, released a statement. I think it was on X, or the former Twitter. And a person who called me to ask my comment found me flabbergasted because I hadn't seen it. And here's what it said. Not one word about Mamdani's victory. Not even a word about the other victories Democrats had achieved on that Tuesday of this week. Instead, the lengthy statement by Kamala Harris was a eulogy for Dick Cheney.
No, you got to be kidding me.
No,
Wow.
Dick Cheney had died at the age of 84 earlier this week, and she found it in her heart to write, and I mean it, go find it, glowingly about Dick Cheney's warmth, Dick Cheney's many contributions to our society, and on and on and on. You know, in many parts of the world, Dick Cheney is considered to be a war criminal.
Including this country.
He did around the Iraq War and so on. He is a right-winger, always was. He was the brains behind the Bush campaigns in many ways. He was a hawk militarily.
Pro-torture.
But setting that aside, that's what the leader, at least the putative leader of the Democratic Party, that's what they released the day after a Muslim socialist becomes the mayor of New York City.
Wow. Democratic Party is like going to go by the way of the Whig Party. The Whig Party was doing well, but then they got caught up being too many pro-slavery positions. The Compromise of 1850, this fugitive slave law, the Kansas-Nebraska Act, all of that, and including Daniel Webster. So, I mean, that was it. They lasted like 14 years and they faded away. Is the Democratic Party the way it is right now headed to oblivion, or can Mondani somehow revive it if it changes its direction?
Well, I think everything hangs on that last point, the changing of the direction. I read Kamala Harris's statement about Dick Cheney as a declaration of war. It is that the leadership of the Democratic Party will run its campaigns the way it always has. It will point to Mr. Trump and say, vote for us, we're not as bad as him. And
wow.
And they will count on enough people nodding their heads, people who would, if they had someone less abrasive, probably vote Republican, but they really don't like seeing one more ICE uniformed large man knocking some elderly lady to the ground because she wants to protest the use of violence against unarmed civilian immigrants. I think that that's their hope. They will therefore please their donors because they don't say a word against them. Notice the rule of Mr. Trump and the Republicans on the one side and the Democrats on the other. Whatever you're explaining, whatever issue you're raising, don't blame corporations and the rich.
Right.
Whatever you do, that's the taboo. You cannot talk about that.
Right.
And if you do, the donors will give their money to whoever is running against you. So if you want to take that chance, go ahead, but you will lose because they have an awful lot of money.
Yeah, definitely. We have 8 minutes left here, and I did want to talk about some of the initiatives that the mayor-elect has put out there. What I was surprised not to hear is him talking about, and you know how bad the unemployment numbers are. I mean, the official numbers are 4, 5, 6, whatever it is, but you got that other is it the U4? Well, that number there where it's like people that are underemployed stop looking for work, and that is very true in this city. He didn't come up with any pronouncement about a jobs program initiative. Did that surprise you?
Yes, but there is a wisdom in professional political circles, which is if you have more than 3 signature issues, you're going to lose because people can't keep it in your mind, don't remember it, mix them up, confuse them, and then kind of turn away and stop paying attention. So you are told, come down with 1 or 2, that'd be best, but 3 is your outside number. And Mr. Mondani, as best I could tell, had picked grocery store deserts where there aren't any fresh food outlets. He's going to deal with that. The problem of people who need a little housing or help with their housing and who can't stand the high rents, and a couple of others. But let me leave it with those 2. If you in my neighborhood in Manhattan, where people voted for Mr. Mondani, I think he did better in Manhattan than anywhere else. That's what they said. They said rent. They said food deserts, and I forgot the third one.
Child care.
No, it wasn't childcare. It was rent, Food deserts.
Food
Oh,
deserts.
yeah, free buses.
Free buses, which is a pipe dream.
That's what people here talked about. And I don't think that was because those were the most important. Those were the three that they could remember because he had hammered at those way more than everything else. And they're enough because they give you the flavor of what he is going to do. People are not going to retain all that much detail, but the flavor, bring down the rents, take away the cost of the bus trip. These are dramatic, put a public grocery store so fresh fruit and vegetables are available in all the parts of town, not just where rich people live. This gets a lot of information across about who he is and how he's different from the conventional politicians. And that they knew was their road to success.
Right. Well, he's got a lot of obstacles ahead of him, particularly raising money somehow to underwrite his key issues that he focused on. And the buses, the free buses, that's a MTA, that's a state issue. So how would he be able to implement that? That program where they would get free buses, subsidize them, give everyone a card through city discretionary funds?
There are literally, and let me answer it this way. In 1985, I ran for mayor of New Haven, Connecticut. I know because of what I did then that I had a group of advisors, and one of the tasks I gave them was be creative. Take a look at the 75 to 100 American cities who over the last century, at one point or another, have had socialist mayors. Find out what they did that worked. Find out what they did that failed to work. We don't want to make the same mistakes, and we want to learn from whatever successes they had. Mr. Mandani has lots of options on every one of the things he said. And the notion, well, you can't do that unless that's just people who want to rain on his parade. Will there be opponents and obstacles? Yes. But he has lots of options. To take the example you ask about, free bus rides. Yes, he could have a system where a fund is created to give people special passes. He could have an arrangement in which the cost of that is shared between the MTA and the rest of the city. He could also set up, alone or in a partnership, a private program of minibuses that travel right alongside the big bus.
Yeah.
And for half the money or no money at all, give you an option.
Right.
He doesn't want to do that. He doesn't want to declare war on the MTA. On the other hand, if people don't cooperate with him, he doesn't have to cooperate with them. He can do all kinds of things that conventional mayors never did or stopped doing long time ago. And if he's got half the skill he showed already in this election that he did so well at, I don't have any doubt that he and his advisors are going to come up with all kinds of old and new ways to get around.
Well,
look, the rental people, the real estate interests, they know that one of the ways you keep rents high in this city is you limit the amount of housing. Why? Because the more housing is produced, the more the landlords have to compete for the tenants. It's a simple law and demand story. Right. Socialists understand it real well. So you go to the landlords and you say, well, here's the thing. We are thinking of building, 500,000 new units of quality housing, and we're going to make them public. They're going to be owned and operated by the people who live there. Cooperative housing. We have a lot of that already in New York. We're going to build on that. And those rentals in those apartments are going to be way below what you charge. And so you know what's going to happen? People are going to not renew the lease they have with you because they're going to try to come over and live here. And yes, we can't accommodate enough of them, but we can accommodate enough to drive down the rents where you are. So for us, it's a double benefit. We look fantastic as the mayor who got houses built.
Right.
And we look doubly fantastic because by building the extra houses, we brought down the rent in the existing houses. So we will have helped everybody,
Right.
except you, the landlords,
Right.
who are, after all, few in number, whereas your tenants are huge in number. So we're gonna do that, unless, of course, you would like us not to do that, and that requires you to lower the rents a good bit just on your own.
Right.
And then we won't build those houses right away.
You know, the rents.
Or maybe
I just want to point out, you know, the money that they pay in taxes. There hasn't been an assessment of the real estate in like 10, 15 years. It cost a fortune. So we're going back by old assessments of real estate values, and it would cost a lot of money just to do a new assessment.
Right.
I don't
And
know.
look, when I was the candidate for mayor, I had a meeting with the major landlords, and I said to them with a smile on my face, exactly what you just said, Renee. I said, you haven't had a property assessment here in 10 years. You're paying taxes on an assessed value of your property that is woefully lower than what you and I both know it really is. And I hope to get cooperation from you. Otherwise, there'll be an assessment the first week that I get into office. And you're all going to see an adjustment in your taxes to take account of the higher value of your. You should have seen their faces.
Well,
It's
you know,
not that they didn't know about this. Of course they did.
Yes.
But they were used to mayors who wouldn't dare say such a thing, let alone do it.
Right. Well, maybe he should bring you in as his. I hope he's here listening to this. Somebody, and they say, let's get Dr. Richard Wolff in to be our main economic advisor, and that would really be super. We have 1 minute left. I want to talk just 1 minute a summary of how important this station. You have your show every Thursday at 7 o'clock, economic update, and you know we are in the crosshairs right now. There's a big battle out there. How important is it for people to continue supporting the station at this critical juncture in time?
Well, this station does all day, every day, the kind of bringing unusual news that people need into their homes. They do every day what Zoran Mamdani just showed us. Millions of people want to hear and want to see. A vote for Mamdani is a vote that you can turn into having him stronger by having a stronger BAI and having this community more supportive of him, more open to whatever socialist initiatives he undertakes because they know what lies behind it. And that's what you learn if you listen to the programs on WBAI. BAI helped enable Zoran Mamdani to win by being here and giving this city, unlike so many others in America, a kind of progressive voice that was always there. And that's invaluable. And if Zoran Mamdani were here, my guess is he would second what I just said and say a hearty thank you to WBAI for having made it possible for him to run and win in the way that he did.
Thank you so much for that encouragement here, folks. I hope you're listening to Dr. Wolff. You can hear him every Thursday night at 7 p.m. Go to his website. If you want to see the real Dr. Richard Wolff, go to Democracy at Work, and please get his book, Understanding Capitalism. You're a real treasure, and we'll be talking to you soon, Dr. Wolff. Thank you so much for all that you do.
Same here, Randy. The same to you, and I look forward to talking to you again in the future.
Okay.